everyone, my name is Tina and welcome back to my Genshin book club. So my previous book reading somehow got super popular. This is from the same room as the previous book. It's below the Broken Sea in Simulanka. So this is an event exclusive item that you get at the end, but I think it has some really heavy lore implications. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't seen too much discussion about it in English, but this has been talked a lot in both the Chinese and the Korean community. So I gathered all this information, put in some of my own flavor, and let's get in there. So this book, this is the description on the item. A book about a young woman named Licia who sets out on a journey alone following the ruination of her homeland at the hands of a black dragon. We don't know that many dragons in Genshin, so if we find any like one-to-one correlation to Teyvat, I think there are two potential candidates here. One of them being obviously Durin. As we know from this event itself, Durin is supposed to be resurrected sometime in the storyline. So we're gonna read this whole book and you're gonna see why I'm like, this is a little sus. But on the other hand, there are some signs that makes me believe this might not be Durin, but none other than Nibelung, who had a big fight with the heavenly principles, which also would make sense in some ways and maybe don't in some other ways. And I think I'm just gonna start it off right here. There are also some theories that those two may be connected, because in case you don't know, all the dragon names are coming from a German epic music drama called Der Ring des Nibelungen. So there is still a chance that those are somehow connected. Before I start reading, one more thing. Ruined homeland. What if this is a traveler or the sibling? Ruined homeland. So after this black dragon destroyed her homeland, on her journey, she met a former guard of the kingdom, now an errant wanderer, and sought his guidance in the art of swordsmanship. But the guard had long since given up hope and had lost both the will to wield the sword and the courage to swing it. A former guard of the kingdom who's wandering around, and there is this girl who lost a homeland, the first pair who came into my mind, and I think a lot of you as well, the Abyss sibling and Dainsleif. Now this is a theory that I've seen first on the Chinese forums, but the more I'm looking into that, and especially as we get to the end, I don't think there is that many resemblance. But without going super sidetracked, because then actually this would be like an hour-long video, the little thread that may actually connect Dainsleif, what happened in Cambria, and Nibelung is none other than Dainsleif's ring. And if you remember what I was talking about just a few minutes ago, Der Ring des Nibelungen. So the ring has to do something with Nibelung, it has to do something with Cambria and especially Dainsleif. So I'm just gonna leave you with that. I'm gonna read the story as if this black dragon is Nibelung. But just so you know, there are definitely some connections between all those pieces. They might be interchangeable as we get more information in the future. So I cannot fill a bottle with hope and give it to you, said Licia. But I do remember a song from my childhood. It sings of how spring is as fleeting as a shooting star, and it taught me to cherish every flower still in blossom about my feet. If you're on the Dainsleif route, this is the Abyss sibling. Very obviously about the flowers, how the sibling apparently got to the end, to the sea of the end of the flowers, something like that. At this point I was like, yeah, I have to agree with the Chinese netizens. This sounds like Lumine as if she was the Abyss sibling. You need not master the way of the sword, said the guard. I can see in your eyes that you are already in possession of something even more powerful. And this is where I think the connections to the Abyss sibling and Dainsleif end. But let's just go forward, because the next part, oh boy, I think it's gonna be really interesting. After continuing on her way once more, following the guidance of the elders, Licia entered the dense forest and came before a wise owl, keeper of the keys to the kingdom of dreams. The owl's laughter, rolling forth like a shrouding mist, enveloped her from all sides. Do you know what it means to retreat in the face of adversity? As long as my legs can still walk, I will keep moving forward. And do you feel the thought of death knocking at your door? I will fight it right up until the final moment arrives. One last question. Can you swear to set your heart on revenge? So what do we know? There's this owl who is keeping the keys to the kingdom of dreams. Having now obtained the key, Licia opened the door to the kingdom of dreams, where she was to cross the river of stars and ascend an ink-black starway, enduring many hardships. Finally, She confessed the reason for her coming before the goddess of dreams, and in exchange for a lock of her golden hair, learned the magic of luring someone into a dream. Then she declared that she would take revenge upon the Black Dragon. In the beginning, the Black Dragon knew only black and white, but under the magic spell, it dreamed of 1,001 different worlds, each far more vibrant and vivid than fire and brimstone. If words like these strike your fancy as well, said Lycia, I will turn back the dial of the night sky, reversing all the stars in their courses, returning things to the day before you arrived in my hometown. I am freaking out. So many implications here. First of all, very obviously, the mechanic is somewhat similar to what we've seen in Simulanka. As we know, Simulanka is somewhat mirrors the real world. That's what the witches told us. And talking about time, it's finally time to put my own little flavor into the mix. When you're talking about time, manipulating the past, there is one name that comes to my mind, and I think a name that comes to a lot of you guys' mind. Istaroth, the ruler of time, one of the 4 shining shades of the primordial one. We have first met her, I think, during the Enconomia questline, and when I hear anything to do with time, I think of her, and I'm just gonna leave it out here. I haven't researched this topic super thoroughly yet, but the only person who can move when you pause the game is Paimon. And Paimon is also in the Ars Goetia, which is the demon book that has all the gods' names. And it's not only Paimon who is in there, but also Astaroth, I think, or it's not technically Istara. Her name comes from like different deities. And Istara, this goddess, in the real life description, is seen with owls. Standing on lions. I'm not sure what with lions, but standing next to owls. So then, if my theory is correct, it would explain why there was an owl who was guarding the key. When I'm reading this to turn back time before you arrived in my hometown, I'm just like, so that's what the Abyss sibling wants, right? Wanna turn back time with the help of Istaroth, Loom of Fate, Paimon, whatever mechanics there are. Since the Durin Resurrection was so prominent in this whole event, I think this might be about that, just in some other way. That probably is just one single link that we're missing here. Okay, but just to finish off the story. At the story's end, Lycia awoke from the previous night's dream to the familiar sight of her hometown outside the window. The birds were singing and the flowers in bloom, and all was at peace. From the little door of the wooden cabin, there came a gentle knocking. Opening the door, Lycia beheld a black-haired stranger standing outside. I cannot distinguish the color of your hair, the man said, but I suppose it must be golden, just like the color of the stars in my dreams. With a note at the back of the book, you really like writing stories about dragons, don't you? This is probably one of the witches writing to M. So, at the end, everything is peaceful as we're waking up to a next day. And here is my favorite theory, leaving it for the very end. The story and how the dragon was saved is just from the perspective of one of the twins. And the other one has to do the same in a different samsara cycle. And it would make sense because technically that's how you make both perspectives canon if they are in like a repeating cycle. So the people who play with Ether and the people who play with Lumin are technically like coming after each other, like a weird cycle, timey way. I love this theory, and I've been covering a lot of fairy tales these days about Genshin, but just so you know, I don't think I mentioned this before, but you guys have probably already know this. As Nahida mentioned, the only way to keep information stored in the Irminsul is in fairy tales. The Irminsul can be manipulated as we've seen, but not fairy tales. So the biggest secrets of Teyvat are gonna be in fairy tales because those cannot be manipulated. And this leaves us with one more little thing I want to mention. I don't know how much connection it has to that, but since I'm replaying Genshin on my Chinese account, I was just at the end of the prologue when you told Wendy under the tree, when there was one sentence that really stuck out to me. And this is one of those cases when, unfortunately, in English it doesn't sound good. This was the first time he explained visions. In truth, every wielder of a vision is one who can attain godhood and ascend to Celestia. We call those such people Allogenes. In Japanese, it sounds like Genshin to yobarete.
Genshin?
Oh yeah, Genshin! It says the game's name, Genshin. Which is, I mean, if you like really go into what it means, the first kanji, Gen, is kind of like original. The first, some would say primordial, and Shin is just God. One of the translations might just be primordial God, and we know that these primordial gods are the ones who have a chance to ascend to Celestia. Why would they be primordial? Like, that's not something that happens in like the middle of a game. Here's my crazy theory, and this is crazy, just bear with me. What if it's called Genshin? Because these people who are ascending, who are getting to Celestia, are the people who are gonna be the gods of the new world, on the new samsara cycle. Now, there are a lot of things that kind of contradicts this one. First of all, even though I personally don't play other Hoyoverse games. Oh, now I play ZZ, but besides that one. So I don't play Star Rail, I don't play Honkai Sword. But I heard from people that there is something called Honkai, which basically something is like a destruction of universes. And it could be that Teyvat is trying to prevent that. It's trying to prevent that samsara cycle and the destruction of the whole universe. In which case, I don't think Celestia would want to have a new samsara cycle. So anyways, there's a lot of little notes here. Like if you could make the Kamina Kokoro, which is the Gnosis, and the Kaminome, which is the vision. Both are like the god's heart and the god's eyes. Now we know there is a dissenter's remains, quite literally their heart and eyes. What if Nibelung's remains are the ones that made Conria's rings that Dainsleif uses? What if Gold used those remains to try and make Durin? I think there is a lot of interpretation that you can get from that, and I've been yapping for quite a while. This video was peak ADHD because I was just talking about so many things, but I hope you learned something. I hope you guys are gonna be coming up with your own theories. I think I laid the groundwork, so go ahead, make up your own stories. If there is any other information that I come across in the upcoming days, I want to be posting about it on my Genshin Twitter, which is Hina Impact. Thank you for being here, thank you for watching me, thank you for listening to me because it has been quite long. See you in the next video. Bye bye!